From the moment Marcus Carter stepped into Dallas Love Field, he could sense something was off. It wasn't the usual pre-flight nerves or the bustle of travelers racing to their gates. It was the subtle yet jarring hostility radiating from the man who wore a pilot's stripes. Little did Marcus know the next hours would hold a startling confrontation, igniting a chain of events that reached the very top of the airline's power structure. Before the wheels would even lift off the ground, destinies would collide, personal prejudices would be laid bare, and an unexpected phone call from a legendary founder would change everything. Marcus Carter woke up in a modest motel room just outside Dallas, Texas, rubbing the remnants of sleep from his eyes. The day had finally arrived. In just a few hours, he would be boarding a flight that could shape his future. He was traveling to Los Angeles for a final round job interview with a prestigious architecture firm. After years of honing his craft, juggling night classes, and meticulously building his portfolio, this was Marcus's big break. The position promised a salary high enough to support his aging mother and give him the financial stability he'd worked so hard to attain. Though excited, Marcus felt a growing knot of worry in his stomach. He was traveling on Southwest Airlines, which he usually adored for its friendly crew and relaxed seating. But an unsettling memory from his last flight emerged, an incident in which a passenger made a condescending remark about people like him occupying too many seats. Southwest had intervened swiftly, but the uneasy feeling of being singled out hadn't quite dissipated. Marcus reminded himself that one bad experience didn't define an entire company or its people. He gathered his portfolio, triple-checked his paperwork, and hopped into a ride-share bound for Dallas Love Field. Dallas Love Field was in full swing by the time he arrived. Families bustled with strollers, business travelers clutched their laptops, and weekend adventurers lugged overstuffed duffel bags. Marcus had planned to arrive 2 hours early, but to his dismay, traffic had eaten away half his buffer. He rushed to the check-in kiosk, where he printed his boarding pass. The line for baggage check was longer than usual, but the staff seemed to be moving people swiftly. As he waited, he overheard 2 gate agents talking about the flight being overbooked. Normally, Southwest's open seating policy offered a fair first-come, first-served approach, but for some reason this flight had a row of upgraded business select seats that were stirring up extra commotion. Marcus approached the ticket counter. He noticed a banner behind it advertising last-minute upgrades for business select seats, which promised priority boarding, extra legroom, and a free premium drink. Given how important the upcoming interview was, Marcus allowed himself a moment of indulgence. Maybe if the upgrade was affordable, he could arrive in Los Angeles feeling rested, not cramped in a middle seat. After all, he would be presenting his architectural portfolio to executives. First impressions meant everything, even if only for his own confidence. With a polite smile, he asked the agent about a possible upgrade. The agent typed furiously, scanning the screen. "We do have a seat available," she began, eyes flickering with hesitation. "But you'd have to talk to the gate agent for final confirmation. The system's showing a sort of hold on it." Marcus's brow furrowed. A hold on a seat. That was odd. Nevertheless, he thanked her and proceeded through security. Beyond the checkpoint lines at the coffee shops, snaked around corners. Marcus found Gate 12, the designated departure area for his flight to Los Angeles. A group of passengers was already milling around, including some with that signature business select pass clipped to their lanyards. He took a seat and fished out his phone, contemplating whether the upgrade was worth the potential hassle. Something in the air felt charged, like the hush before a thunderstorm. He couldn't pinpoint why. He reminded himself it was likely just nerves about his interview, and maybe the general tension of an overbooked flight. Standing near the gate, with a pilot's cap resting snugly on his neatly cropped hair, was Captain Ronald James. At first glance, he seemed to radiate confidence. His crisp uniform, polished shoes, and steady posture signaled the demeanor of a veteran pilot. He was talking to another crew member, a flight attendant named Rebecca, who looked both capable and kind. As Marcus approached the gate agent's podium to inquire about the upgrade, he caught Captain James scanning the crowd. Their eyes met for the briefest moment, and Marcus felt a shiver ripple through his spine. The pilot's gaze was cold, assessing and strangely distrustful. Marcus shrugged off the momentary chill and smiled at the gate agent. "Hi, I was hoping to upgrade to Business Select if it's still available." He slid his existing boarding pass across the counter. The gate agent, a middle-aged woman named Teresa, responded with a pleasant but rushed smile. Her name tag dangled from a lanyard that featured a proud Southwest insignia. She typed in Marcus's information, then glanced over at Captain James, who stood only a few feet away. She opened her mouth to speak, but Captain James gave a subtle shake of his head. Confusion flickered in Teresa's eyes. "Sir, it looks like the seat is technically open," Teresa explained quietly, lowering her voice. "But we have certain priorities for upgrades. I need to check with the captain." In Marcus's experience, seat upgrades usually didn't require the captain's intervention. Something here wasn't quite adding up. "No problem," he replied, trying to sound casual, despite a twinge of apprehension. As Teresa motioned Captain James over, Marcus noticed Rebecca, the flight attendant, watching intently. She'd caught the subtle tension, too, and her brow knit in concern. Captain James walked over, gave Marcus a quick once-over, and turned back to Teresa. "I'm not sure that seat is available, Teresa. We might have a deadheading pilot riding with us, or a last-minute VIP." His tone was clipped, not overtly rude, but undeniably dismissive. Marcus knew about deadheading crew members, pilots, or flight attendants traveling off duty, but the idea that the seat was on hold for a possible occupant who might not even show up felt suspect. Teresa hesitated, eyes flickering between Captain James and the passenger. "But sir," she began, and Captain James cut her off with a near imperceptible shake of his head. "We'll confirm later," he said sharply. "Go ahead and board the rest of the passengers as planned." Marcus felt his cheeks warm with a mix of disappointment and embarrassment. The flight was still an hour from departure, so maybe the situation could be resolved. Still, something about Captain James's demeanor seemed personal, as if he'd decided from the moment he saw Marcus that an upgrade was out of the question. Marcus forced a polite smile. "All right, I'll check back in a bit. Thanks for your time." With that, he stepped away to wait the pilot's strange glare lingering in his thoughts. Once Marcus returned to the waiting area, he spotted the flight attendant, Rebecca, approaching. She wore a friendly but concerned expression. "Hi, I'm Rebecca," she introduced herself. "I'm one of the lead cabin crew on your flight. I couldn't help but notice you were interested in a seat upgrade." Marcus nodded, explaining the reason for his trip. His final interview in Los Angeles, and how a more comfortable seat might let him rest and prepare. Rebecca listened carefully, her empathy evident. "I can't make any promises," she said, "but I'll see if there's something I can do. We want every passenger to be treated fairly." Rebecca's calm presence soothed Marcus's anxiety. In a brief conversation, he learned she'd been with Southwest for 6 years, valued the airline's culture of friendliness and equality, and hated to see any passenger treated poorly. "I saw the look on the captain's face," she admitted. "I'm not sure what's going on, but I promise you if there's a seat open, you have every right to claim it if you can pay the upgrade fee." Marcus appreciated her sincerity, but beneath her comforting words, He sensed she was just as bewildered by Captain James's behavior as he was. For a moment, Marcus let himself feel optimistic. It was possible that the pilot had a legitimate reason for holding the seat. Maybe there really was a last-minute VIP or a deadheading pilot. With any luck, the seat would still be his if those other considerations didn't pan out. Marcus thanked Rebecca and returned to scrolling through his phone, keeping half an ear on the announcements. Meanwhile, the gate area filled with more passengers, some wearing business attire, others in shorts and flip-flops. Typical for Southwest, the environment was casual yet bustling. Just then, Marcus's phone vibrated, displaying a name that brought a smile to his face, Clarence. He was an old college buddy who'd moved to Los Angeles 2 years earlier. "Hey man, you all set for your flight?" Clarence asked, voice echoing from the phone. Marcus recapped the seat upgrade saga. Clarence, never one to mince words, replied, "That's messed up, but keep your cool. You know how these things can go. If it's meant for you, it's meant for you." Those words felt like an anchor. Marcus took a deep breath and reminded himself not to jump to conclusions about the pilot's motives. Shortly after he ended the call, the boarding process began. Even though Marcus had been eyeing Business Select, he had a mid-tier boarding position, Group B, thanks to his early check-in. He watched as the first set of passengers lined up, including a handful with the prized Business Select boarding tickets. Captain James hovered near the jet bridge entrance, greeting passengers with a forced politeness. Marcus caught him exchanging a glance with Teresa, the gate agent, as if instructing her to stay silent about the upgrade situation. Inside, frustration brewed, but Marcus resolved to keep calm and address it once he was on board. Once the B group was called, Marcus walked down the jet bridge, his heart pounding with anticipation and uncertainty. He managed to find a window seat a few rows behind the wings. He stowed his carry-on and settled in, pulling out a folder of architectural sketches to review. He tried to ignore the swirl of thoughts about the pilot's behavior. For all he knew, it was just an administrative glitch. Rebecca and 2 other flight attendants circulated through the cabin, offering greetings and assisting with bags in the overhead bins. The chatter of passengers settling in filled the aircraft. Marcus felt a momentary surge of excitement about heading to Los Angeles. He pictured himself walking into that boardroom, with confidence landing the job and calling his mother with the good news. He reminded himself that no matter what seat he ended up in, the real destination was what mattered. A crackle came over the speaker system, followed by Captain James's voice. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Captain Ronald James, and I'd like to welcome you aboard Southwest Flight 347 to Los Angeles. We're looking at a flight time of about 3 hours and 15 minutes. We'll be pushing back shortly, so please stow your carry-ons and buckle up." His tone was professional, yet there was a sharp edge to it, like someone forcing courtesy. Marcus felt the same shiver he'd experienced at the gate. A moment later, Teresa, the gate agent, stepped onto the plane. She exchanged a few words with Rebecca at the front. Rebecca's gaze scanned the cabin until it landed on Marcus. She whispered something to Teresa, who nodded. Marcus's pulse quickened. Was this about the seat upgrade? Teresa cast a cautious glance toward the cockpit door, then looked back at Marcus with an apologetic shrug before exiting. Marcus tucked his sketches away. He could sense the tension thickening among the crew. Passengers around him seemed oblivious, happily chatting about their travel plans or rummaging through backpacks for snacks. But Marcus could see the concern etched on Rebecca's face as she prepared for the safety demonstration. He tried to wave to her discreetly, but she was already busy with her duties. Something was off, and it was about to escalate far beyond a mere seat upgrade. The plane door closed, and the flight attendants armed the doors. Marcus settled in, resigned to the fact that he wouldn't get the business select seat. Just as he was about to slip on his headphones, the cockpit door opened. Captain James emerged and headed straight toward Marcus's row, stooping to avoid bumping his head on the overhead compartments. Passengers in nearby rows grew quiet curiosity shining in their eyes. "Sir," the captain said, his voice tight, "I need to speak with you." Marcus looked up, startled. Captain James's expression revealed a smoldering irritation, as though he'd been forced into an uncomfortable situation. "Yes," Captain Marcus replied, trying to maintain respect. The pilot cast a quick glance around, noticing the onlookers. "Would you mind stepping up to the galley area with me for a minute?" Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt, heart thumping, and followed the pilot toward the front. The narrow aisle seemed to compress around them. Rebecca hovered near the galley, her eyes darting anxiously between Marcus and Captain James. The pilot folded his arms, leaning in, as though about to unveil some grave issue. "I've been informed you were pressuring the gate agent about a business select seat. That seat is reserved for special circumstances. I'm sorry if you misunderstood." Marcus felt a flare of confusion and anger. "I only inquired about the possibility of an upgrade. The gate agent said it might be available, so I asked." "That seat's not for sale," Captain James snapped back, "so don't cause any more trouble about it." Rebecca took a small step forward. "Captain Mr. Carter has been nothing but polite. We checked the system, and it showed the seat was open at the time." She spoke calmly but firmly. The pilot's jaw tightened, and he turned a cold gaze on her. "I'm running this flight, Ms. Harrington," he said. "I won't have a passenger disobeying standard operating procedures." A hush fell around them. Marcus exhaled, trying to keep his voice steady. "Sir, I'm aware of the rules. I'm not trying to break them. If the seat truly isn't available, I'll respect that. But you've made it clear there's something else at play." He paused, swallowing a lump of frustration. "This feels personal." Captain James stiffened, glancing at the row of passengers, now openly observing. "Don't accuse me of anything improper," he hissed. "I have my reasons." Rebecca, whose eyes shone with concern, opened her mouth to speak, but Captain James curtly dismissed them both. "We're taking off now. Let's put this matter to rest, or I'll have you removed from the flight, Mr. Carter." Marcus walked back to his seat, each step feeling heavier than the last. He sensed the stares of passengers. Some looked sympathetic, others were confused. The entire exchange had been tense, borderline humiliating. As the plane prepared for pushback, Marcus buckled his seatbelt, mind churning with questions. Why was Captain James so adamant about denying him this upgrade? Why threaten to remove him from the flight over a simple request? The flight attendants took their positions for the safety demonstration. Rebecca's voice, usually warm and animated, was subdued as she demonstrated the oxygen masks and emergency exits. Marcus tried to calm himself, focusing on the reason for his trip, an interview that could define his future. As the engines roared, the plane surged down the runway, lifting into the Texas sky. He pressed his head back against the seat tension coiling in his muscles. Minutes into the climb, the seatbelt sign remained lit due to mild turbulence. The aircraft bumped through a few rough patches. Marcus thought about the pilot in the cockpit, guiding them through the same sky that now felt ominous. No matter how skilled Captain James was at flying, his discriminatory vibe hung like a cloud over the cabin. Across the aisle, an older woman eyed Marcus with concern. She leaned in. I couldn't help but notice that conversation. "Are you all right?" Her voice was kind, and Marcus appreciated the gesture. He nodded, managing a faint smile. "I'm okay. Just a misunderstanding," he replied, not wanting to escalate the situation further. Once the seatbelt sign switched off, Rebecca made her way down the aisle with the beverage cart. When she reached Marcus's row, she knelt down slightly so as not to block the aisle traffic. "I'm sorry about that," she whispered. "Please try to enjoy the flight. I'll keep checking if anything changes with that seat. As far as I know, no one's occupying it." Marcus nodded, gratitude flooding him. Despite the pilot's hostility, at least one person on board cared enough to stand up for him. An hour into the flight, the cabin settled into a routine calm. Passengers napped or watched shows on their devices. Marcus managed to take out his portfolio again, trying to focus on last-minute refinements to his architectural designs. But his thoughts were clouded by the morning's events. Why would a pilot, someone entrusted with the safety of hundreds, exhibit such hostility over a trivial request? The older woman across the aisle introduced herself as Irene. She offered him a soft candy, the type grandparents always seem to carry. Marcus accepted with a small laugh. Her simple kindness helped lighten his mood. He thanked her, and she responded, "Don't let anyone keep you from what's yours." Her words, though brief, carried weight. Captain James made another announcement, updating the passengers on weather conditions. His voice still held that taut edge. Rebecca continued her beverage service, occasionally stopping to help with passenger requests. Marcus kept an eye on her interactions. She seemed to handle everything with poised efficiency, but her posture stiffened whenever she spoke to or about the captain. Something clearly bothered her. Marcus stood and headed to the lavatory at the back of the plane. On his way, he passed the rear galley, where he overheard two flight attendants quietly discussing the pilot. "He's never been this intense," one said. "I don't know what's gotten into him. He snapped at me for no reason earlier." The other flight attendant nodded. "Maybe it's stress." But that confrontation at the front was odd. It's like he singled out that passenger. Marcus pretended he hadn't heard their conversation as he slipped into the lavatory. When he emerged, he lingered a moment in the aisle, letting the hum of the aircraft fill his ears. A swirl of emotions, anger, confusion, sadness tugged at him. He never wanted to be the passenger who caused a scene. But this felt like an affront to his dignity. If the pilot's hostility was rooted in prejudice, that was unacceptable. Then again, confronting him head-on might jeopardize Marcus's chances of getting to Los Angeles in time. Returning to his seat, Marcus decided to document what had happened so far, just in case. He typed notes on his phone, detailing the exchange with Captain James, the gate agent's confusion, and Rebecca's supportive comments. He considered posting on Twitter or Facebook, but he hesitated. He wasn't looking to spark an online feud. Yet he wanted a record should it become relevant later. The young woman seated next to Marcus introduced herself as Denise. She admitted she'd seen part of the confrontation and was disturbed by the pilot's tone. "I've traveled a lot with Southwest, and I've never seen a captain do something like that," she remarked. "Are you sure you're okay?" Marcus thanked her for her concern, explaining the context. Denise frowned. "That's unfair. You're paying a customer. You have every right to ask about an upgrade." Their brief chat lifted Marcus's spirits, knowing that at least some passengers stood by him. After some thought, Marcus decided to share a short account of the incident in a private group on social media, composed of close friends and industry colleagues. He wrote, "Something bizarre happened on my flight to LA. The pilot singled me out for asking about an upgrade. Not sure if it's me or something else. Could be nothing, but it feels wrong. Hoping to land safely and get to my interview tomorrow." He didn't name the airline or the pilot, trying to maintain discretion. Within minutes, comments from his friends started rolling in. "That's messed up. Stay safe and keep calm. File a complaint when you land." Their words gave him a sense of solidarity. Clarence messaged him privately. "Dude, let me know if you need anything. I'll pick you up at LAX and we can talk it over." The knowledge that he had a support system waiting gave Marcus fresh resolve. Unbeknownst to Marcus, one of his friends in that private group was also close to a popular travel blogger who soon caught wind of the story. Though Marcus had tried to keep details vague, the blogger recognized enough context: Southwest flight, Dallas to Los Angeles, and mention of a pilot confrontation. The blogger quietly started drafting a post about possible discrimination on a Southwest flight, intending to publish it if he could confirm details. While the plane soared thousands of feet above the ground, forces on social media began stirring. Somewhere in the operations center at Southwest Airline's headquarters in Dallas, an operator fielded a phone call from a flight attendant on another aircraft. Flight crews often chat with each other about irregularities. The story had spread quickly among staff texting across flights. Word traveled that Captain Ronald James was acting strangely toward a passenger. Though official action was not yet taken, rumors sparked a note of caution among management. Although Herb Kelleher, the legendary co-founder of Southwest, had stepped back from day-to-day operations years ago, his influence lingered throughout the company's culture. He was known for championing employees and passenger satisfaction alike, fostering an environment where fairness and fun reigned. The rumors of a discriminatory pilot thus struck at the heart of Southwest's cherished identity. A mid-level manager decided it might be worth informing some of the higher-ups, if only to stay ahead of potential PR fallout. Remarkably, an old friend of Herb Kelleher's still worked as a consultant. During a break in his schedule, the consultant saw an internal memo referencing a pilot-passenger dispute that might blow up on social media. Knowing how protective Herb was of Southwest's reputation, he decided to give the retired founder a call. "Herb, you might want to check this out," he said. "I know you're not in the office anymore, but there's something about a pilot possibly discriminating against a passenger. We can't confirm yet, but it's picking up chatter." Herb Kelleher, though no longer actively overseeing the airline, was known for his keen sense of moral responsibility. Even from retirement, he kept his finger on the pulse of the company. The mere hint of discriminator behavior set off alarm bells for him. "If that's true, it goes against everything we stand for," he growled into the phone. He asked for the flight number and route details, scribbling notes on a pad. "I might have to make a few calls," he told his friend, "just to be sure we handle this right." While the flight soared closer to Los Angeles, a quiet flurry of communications began within Southwest. Supervisors tried to get more facts. Was there an actual passenger complaint? Did the pilot do anything explicitly discriminatory? The airline's policy mandated thorough investigation, but the flight was still airborne. Direct contact with the crew was limited to ACRS messaging and short radio transmissions, typically used for operational matters. Still, word reached the right ears. "Keep an eye on Captain Ronald James upon arrival in LA." Marcus felt the pilot's eyes on him again when Captain James made a quick pass through the cabin on the way to the restroom. Marcus decided not to engage. He averted his gaze, focusing on his open folder of sketches. A gnawing sense of unease persisted. What would happen when they landed? Should he file a formal complaint? Or would that jeopardize his tight schedule for the job interview? Just as Captain James disappeared into the cockpit again, Marcus heard a man behind him mutter to his seatmate, "Look at the fuss he's causing just to get a better seat." The seatmate responded quietly, "He's not causing a fuss. From what I saw, the pilot was out of line." Tension flickered. The first man huffed, "I don't see why people have to play the race card all the time." Marcus clenched his jaw. He'd heard that phrase far too often. Yet he chose not to respond, unwilling to escalate the negativity further. Rebecca noticed Marcus's clenched fists. She paused by his row, pretending to adjust a passenger's tray table, and whispered, "Breathe." Marcus exhaled slowly, nodding. Her empathy was a lifeline in that moment, reminding him he wasn't alone. They exchanged a look of understanding before she moved on. During the beverage service, Marcus glanced toward the front rows where the business select seats were. Sure enough, one remained empty. No deadheading pilot, no VIP. His chest tightened with anger. He did everything by the book, yet some invisible line had been drawn. The question wasn't about a seat anymore, it was about dignity. Marcus mentally recited what he had to do upon landing, get to his hotel, rest, and prep for the interview. The last thing he needed was to be escorted off the flight in handcuffs for confronting the pilot. Still, the injustice weighed on him. He tried to lose himself in planning his presentation to the architecture firm. Yet every so often, his eyes flickered to that empty seat at the front, a glaring symbol of the pilot's bias. The seatbelt sign chimed on as the plane hit moderate turbulence over the desert. Luggage shifted in overhead bins and a few drinks spilled. Marcus gripped the armrest, not out of fear of flying. He was normally quite calm, but because the unpredictability of the situation mirrored the unpredictability of Captain James's attitude. A particularly sharp jolt caused a collective gasp from the cabin. Flight attendants quickly secured their carts and took their seats. The pilot's voice crackled. "Folks, we're encountering some rough air. Please stay seated with seatbelts fastened. We'll try to navigate around it." Though professional, his tone was laced with tension. As the plane bounced, Marcus's mind flicked through worst-case scenarios. If the turbulence got severe, he'd have to rely on the skill of the man who seemingly disliked him for no discernible reason. This was one of the harsh realities of air travel. You put your trust in the pilot's competence, even if you disliked him personally or if he disliked you. A strong jolt sent Marcus's open folder of sketches tumbling to the floor. Pages spread out like fallen leaves. He hurriedly reached to gather them, but the plane shook again, scattering several sheets into the aisle. The older woman, Irene, and the young woman, Denise, helped retrieve them. "Thank you," Marcus said, feeling a rush of gratitude. The kindness of strangers contrasted sharply with the pilot's coldness. Eventually, the turbulence subsided. Marcus stared out the window at a vast expanse of clouds, thinking how something that appeared so peaceful from a distance could be so violent within. It reminded him of the facade some people wore, polite on the surface, but harboring something far darker underneath. The flight resumed a smoother path, and passengers breathed a collective sigh of relief. But the tension in Marcus's chest remained. Rebecca announced they'd begin their final drink service soon. She also noted they were making good time and might arrive in Los Angeles a few minutes early. A soft cheer rose from the cabin. Marcus realized he'd have an extra bit of time before his hotel check-in, which he could use to calm down or contact Southwest's customer service if needed. When the flight attendant in the back, Darren, came by with drinks, he paused at Marcus's row. "Hey man," he said softly. "If you need anything, like if you want to talk about what happened, I'm around." Rebecca filled me in on some of it. Marcus gave a curt nod. "Thanks. I just want to get to LA without any more trouble." Darren patted Marcus's shoulder lightly. Understood. What Marcus didn't know was that on the ground, the travel blogger had already posted a tweet. Rumors of possible discrimination by a @Southwest Air pilot on Flight 347 from Dallas to LA. Anyone have details? Nasht Airline, nasht discrimination, nasht aviation. News. The post began to gain traction with some tagging Southwest's official account. Comments piled in. I hope Southwest clarifies this. ASAP. Southwest is usually so good. This is alarming. If this is real, do something at a Southwest Air. The Southwest social media team flagged the post. They scrambled to confirm the flight number and the alleged scenario. Reaching out to local staff in Dallas, they uncovered partial information. The flight was indeed overbooked in Business Select, and Captain Ronald James was in command. No official passenger complaint had been filed yet, but the story was circulating. The social media manager responded with the standard corporate line, "We're looking into these rumors and take such allegations seriously. Customer experience is our top priority." Despite being retired, Herb Kelleher's network was vast. He managed to contact a manager in operations who confirmed the flight details. The manager hinted that they'd talk to the crew upon landing. Herb was not satisfied. He famously believed in direct engagement. "Get me the flight deck on ACARs," he barked, "or at least the ground staff in LA. I want to speak to someone as soon as that plane lands." The manager hesitated. "We can arrange that, Mr. Kelleher, but it might be unorthodox." Herb's reply was succinct. Sometimes unorthodox is the only way. The captain announced the initial descent into Los Angeles. Passengers began tidying their areas, returning trays and powering down electronic devices. Marcus slid his sketches back into his folder, trying to mentally switch gears. He needed to focus on the upcoming interview, not this mid-flight drama. Yet an uneasy feeling told him the story wasn't over. Before the seatbelt sign went on for the last time, Captain James made one final announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be touching down in Los Angeles shortly. We want to thank you for choosing Southwest. Cabin crew, prepare for arrival." There was no hint of apology or warmth in his voice. It left a cold residue in the air, a lingering reminder of the confrontation. Rebecca passed by Marcus one last time to collect trash. She discreetly handed him a small business card with the airline's customer service phone number and a note scribbled, "If you need to talk to anyone, please do." Marcus nodded, slipping it into his pocket. The plane landed with a slight thud, rolling through the runway. As it taxied toward the gate, Los Angeles sunshine streamed through the windows. Passengers stretched, checking their phones. Marcus felt the tension in his shoulders begin to ease. He'd made it to LA. The job interview was still on track, but a new tension brewed what might happen once they deplaned. As soon as the plane's door opened, Captain James emerged from the cockpit, posture rigid. He usually would stand by the flight deck bidding farewell to passengers as they exited. This time, though, his expression was closed off. Marcus stood up, collecting his bag. He waited for the aisle to clear, not wanting another confrontation. When Marcus stepped off the plane into the jet bridge, a man in a Southwest polo shirt stood waiting with a clipboard. "Marcus Carter?" he asked quietly. Marcus nodded. "Would you come with me, please? We'd like to have a quick word in private." Marcus's heart rate spiked. "Is everything okay?" The man offered a polite, if somewhat forced, smile. "We just want to make sure all is well." Inside the terminal, a small cluster of Southwest staff awaited. Rebecca emerged from behind them, standing off to the side, eyes downcast. Captain James lingered near the gate, arms, crossed lips pressed into a thin line. Marcus felt like he was stepping into a spotlight he never asked for. They guided Marcus to a small conference room near the gate area, typically used for private calls or dealing with VIP situations. Once inside, the man with the clipboard introduced himself as Greg Thompson, an operations manager at LAX. Greg reassured Marcus They just wanted to hear his account of what transpired on the flight. Marcus told his story calmly but firmly, from the moment he'd inquired about the seat upgrade to the confrontation in the aisle. Rebecca was invited into the room. She backed up Marcus's story wholeheartedly. He was polite throughout the entire process. There was an empty seat in Business Select that never got taken. Captain James was adamant about preventing Mr. Carter from upgrading, even though there was no operational reason to deny him. The tension escalated solely because the captain seemed to have a personal issue. Suddenly, Captain James entered the room. Without knocking, face flushed. "Are we done here?" he snapped. Greg stood up. "Captain, we're just gathering statements. We need to understand what happened." The pilot scoffed. "I don't have time for this. I've got a schedule to keep." That seat was reserved, end of story. Greg calmly asked, reserved for whom? The pilot hesitated, then muttered something about a possible maintenance crew member that never showed. Greg's phone vibrated on the table. He picked it up, eyes widening as he saw the caller ID. "Yes, sir," he said, stepping out of the room. Marcus exchanged a puzzled look with Rebecca. They heard hushed tones from outside. Moments later, Greg returned wearing a look of astonishment. "Captain, I need you to step out for a moment. Mr. Carter, Ms. Harrington, please wait here." Marcus tried to read the expression on Greg's face, but the manager was stone-faced. Rebecca whispered, "This might be bigger than we thought." Marcus shrugged, equally perplexed. He had a growing suspicion that some high-level intervention was unfolding. Voices rose in the hallway. Captain James sounded livid. "I don't care who he is," the pilot barked. "This is my flight, my call. If you people can't support me, I'll—" His rant was cut off by Greg's calm but firm tone. A beat later, Captain James stomped away, slamming the door behind him. Greg returned, exhaling sharply. "Mr. Carter, Ms. Harrington, can you come with me?" "There's someone who wants to speak with you." Greg led them to a more private corner of the administration offices. An older phone sat in the middle of a table. Its speaker crackled with a warm, gravelly voice that commanded respect. "Hello. Is this Mr. Marcus Carter and Ms. Rebecca Harrington?" Greg hovered near the phone, nodding. "Yes, sir, you're on speaker." The voice continued. "Marcus, Rebecca. This is Herb Kelleher, founder of Southwest Airlines. I've been made aware of the situation on Flight 347. First, let me apologize for any disrespect or inconvenience you've experienced. That's not who we are." Marcus's mind reeled. Herb Kelleher was a legend revered across the airline industry. Even though he was retired, hearing his voice in person, albeit over a phone, felt surreal. It took him a moment to respond. "Thank you for taking the time, Mr. Kelleher. I'm just surprised." Herb let out a good-natured chuckle. "I'm old, but I still care about how we treat our passengers. We built Southwest on a spirit of fairness and inclusion. I can't stand by if there's any chance you were discriminated against." Herb asked Marcus to recount the events in detail, which Marcus did, trying his best to remain objective. He emphasized that the real issue wasn't the seat itself, but how the pilot's demeanor suggested something personal, possibly racial prejudice. Herb listened without interrupting. Then he asked Rebecca to confirm her perspective, which she did with unwavering honesty. After a thoughtful pause, Herb spoke Marcus on behalf of Southwest Airlines. "I sincerely apologize. This is not how we do business. I want to make this right. You should have received the upgrade, assuming you were willing to pay and been treated like any other passenger with respect. I'm personally going to see that Captain James is investigated for this behavior. Please know that we take these matters very seriously." Herb continued, "I also understand you have a critical job interview. We'd like to offer you a complimentary hotel stay tonight and a courtesy voucher for future flights. I realize that doesn't fix the discrimination you experienced, but I hope it shows our commitment to making things right." Marcus felt a wave of relief and gratitude. He'd already booked a hotel, but the gesture meant something. Herb thanked Rebecca for standing up for what was right. "Employees like you, Ms. Harrington, are the backbone of Southwest. This situation might have gone unnoticed if you hadn't advocated for our passenger. We appreciate your integrity." Rebecca blushed. "Thank you, Mr. Kelleher. I just did what I felt was fair." Finally, Herb said, "Marcus, do your best at that interview. Know that not everyone in this world is as short-sighted as Captain James, and from this day on, you have a friend in Southwest Airlines. We'll be in touch to ensure this is resolved properly." With that, he ended the call, leaving Marcus and Rebecca stunned, grateful, and a bit shaken by how quickly everything had escalated. Greg handed Marcus a written complaint form, even though the phone call was enough to start an investigation. "Would you mind detailing your experience here as well? We'll add it to our official report." Marcus agreed, noting the pilot's threatening demeanor and how he mentioned special priorities that didn't seem to exist. He left the race issue ambiguous, stating that it felt like prejudice, but acknowledging that the pilot never explicitly said anything overtly racist. Rebecca gave her own statement corroborating Marcus's account. She highlighted the pilot's unusual aggression, stating that she'd never seen him act that way on previous flights. The ramifications for Captain James would depend on corporate's assessment, but it was clear his career would at least face scrutiny. As Marcus and Rebecca stepped out of the admin offices, they ran into a red-faced Captain James, who was being ushered into a separate room by another manager. The pilot shot Marcus a glare that was equal parts anger and panic, but he said nothing. Marcus felt an odd mix of pity and relief. He had no desire to see anyone's career ruined, but accountability was necessary. Out in the terminal, Southwest staff offered Marcus bottled water and a quiet lounge area while he waited for his luggage. Rebecca hugged him gently, wishing him luck on his interview. They exchanged phone numbers, promising to keep in touch. A few other passengers from the flight recognized him and offered words of support. A couple of them even tweeted positive messages about how Southwest staff, besides the pilot, handled the issue. Clarence arrived, weaving through travelers, to reach Marcus, enveloping him in a warm hug. "Man, I heard about the drama." "You okay?" Marcus nodded, feeling a sense of closure. He was physically and emotionally drained, but also buoyed by the swift and decisive reaction from Herb Kelleher. "I'm good. Let's get out of here. We've got an interview to crush." Marcus checked into his hotel courtesy of Southwest's emergency voucher, which he decided to use instead of his own booking. After taking a shower, he relaxed on a plush bed, thinking back on the roller coaster day. He felt a swirl of emotions, anger at the pilot's prejudice, gratitude for Rebecca's advocacy, and amazement that the founder of the airline had personally apologized. Laying out his blazer and slacks, Marcus carefully reviewed his portfolio. He imagined walking into that architecture firm with renewed conviction. If he could handle the stress of today, he could handle any tough interview question. In a quiet moment of reflection, he felt proud of himself for maintaining composure and standing up for his rights without losing his temper. His phone buzzed with an unknown number. He answered, and a Southwest representative politely introduced herself. "Mr. Carter, I just wanted to confirm your comfort at the hotel and reiterate our deepest apologies. We're also crediting your Rapid Rewards account for the cost of your flight." Marcus thanked her. While nothing could erase the sting of discrimination, he appreciated the gestures. Clarence texted Marcus a link to the travel blogger's latest post, headlined "Pilot's Discriminatory Behavior on Southwest Airline Founder Steps In." The post recounted rumors and unverified details, but confirmed that something big happened on Flight 347. Comments poured in, some skeptical, others outraged. Southwest's official statement read, "We take all allegations of discrimination seriously and are conducting a thorough investigation. We are in direct contact with the passenger involved." Before drifting off, Marcus felt a sense of calm wash over him. Tomorrow held enormous promise, and if the job offer came through, he'd soon be living in Los Angeles, forging a new path. Sleep claimed him with a gentle finality, free from the day's burdens. Dressed in his best suit, Marcus arrived at the architectural firm. Confidence radiated from him, fueled by the knowledge that he'd overcome an ordeal in the skies. The interview panel was impressed by his portfolio and demeanor. One of the executives even commented on how well he handled unexpected challenges, though they had no idea the scale of the challenges he faced just the day before. During a break, Marcus checked his phone and saw a voicemail from Southwest. He stepped outside to listen. "Mr. Carter. This is Jocelyn from Southwest Airlines HR department. We've concluded our preliminary investigation. We'd like you to know Captain James has been removed from duty pending a formal review. Thank you for your cooperation." Marcus felt a complicated mix of relief and sympathy. On one hand, the pilot had brought this on himself. On the other, it was never Marcus's intention to have someone suspended. Still, he knew accountability was crucial for real change. Back in the interview, the lead architect smiled broadly. "Marcus, we've seen a lot of portfolios, but yours stands out for its ingenuity. We'd like to extend you an offer to join us as a junior architect. If you accept, you can start next month." Marcus's heart soared. A job he'd dreamed about was now in his grasp. He accepted on the spot, gratitude shining in his eyes. After the interview, Marcus called his mother. She wept joyfully at the news, blessing him for his perseverance. Then he called Clarence, who was equally thrilled. Together they planned a small celebration dinner at a trendy LA eatery. As they toasted with glasses of sparkling cider, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on the twists of fate that had turned potential disaster into triumph. A week later, Marcus received a typed letter on Southwest Airlines stationery, signed by Herb Kelleher himself. It reiterated Southwest's apology, praised Marcus's composure, and enclosed a pair of complimentary first-class tickets for any future flight. "We hope you continue to give us a chance to serve you," it read. Marcus also heard from Rebecca via text. She revealed that management commended her actions, and she'd been recommended for a promotion to a supervisory role in the cabin crew program. "It's amazing how doing the right thing can open doors," she wrote, adding a heart emoji at the end. News trickled in from airline staff that Captain James faced an internal hearing. Rumors circulated that he'd been reprimanded for multiple issues, this incident plus prior complaints about his demeanor. The consensus was that if he didn't change his behavior, his days with Southwest were numbered. Sitting in his new apartment in Los Angeles, surrounded by boxes yet to be unpacked, Marcus gazed at the city skyline from his window. He reflected on how close he came to allowing anger or fear to overshadow his future. Instead, by staying calm and standing up for himself with dignity, he found not only justice, but also new beginnings. In the end, the real story wasn't about a seat upgrade. It was about respect and the power of allies who refused to let prejudice win. Marcus stretched his arms, a sense of fulfillment grounding him. He wasn't naive. Prejudice existed everywhere. But he felt fortified by this experience, by the knowledge that when injustice reared its head, there were people like Rebecca and legends like Herb Kelleher who would step forward to make things right. The road ahead sparkled with promise, reminding him that sometimes life's greatest challenges birth life's greatest triumphs. And there you have it, a tale of perseverance and justice at 30,000 feet, where a single act of prejudice collided with the unyielding spirit of fairness. Marcus Carter found the resolve to stand up for himself, refusing to let a moment of discrimination keep him grounded. With the unexpected intervention of Herb Kelleher, Southwest's founder, the truth prevailed and a brighter path opened for everyone involved. Now, if this story moved you, inspired you, or even made you reflect on your own journeys, we encourage you to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button. If you believe in standing up against injustice, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life dramas and inspiring tales. Together our voices can champion equality, celebrate courage, and ensure no one ever flies alone against the winds of bias. Safe travels, everyone.